So let's look at the little the room here that we want to draw. And I generally like to examine carefully what it is that I'm drawing and think about it before I actually, dive into it and start actually drawing it. So this is a classroom and it's got, some walls here. The door here is set in. So I would assume that over here on the left, running vertically, is a corridor of some sort, right? And you walking down the corridor and then you go into the classroom. And the door is recessed. Excuse me. The door is recessed into the room a little bit so that when the door swings open, it doesn't encroach into the corridor any more than 7 inches. So this is that's why this doorway is set into the room. And then to the right of the door, or right next to the door, there's a tiny little side light. Let me just zoom in a little bit. And the convention for drawing a side light here, we have some mullions on either side. So there's a mullion here, and here. And then when we're drawing a glass window, we generally just draw a line right down the middle from the edge of that mullion to the edge of that mullion. And that represents a glass line. Whether or not that glass is actually there or on the edge or on the inside, generally the convention is to just draw that glass line right down the middle. Okay. So our room is 28.5 feet wide, 28.6 by 26.7. This is 26, and this recesses in 2.5 feet. This is 4'9", and I'm noticing that all of my dimensions are taken to the clear inside face of the walls of the room. That means it's not to the outside corners of these walls, but to the clear inside corners. This corner here, there, and there. And that's important for us when we start offsetting our walls, right? Because we want to offset outside so we're not encroaching into the clear space of our room. Okay, so let's start in. I'm going to move this off the screen here. I have it on my second screen here. And the first thing that I want to make sure is, again, I started a new drawing with a template. And from now on, that's how I'd like you to open up your drawings. Just to reiterate, we'll just go to File, New, and then use the template. Go, drill down and find your template wherever you've saved it, and then open your file with that template. And you'll have your A-size landscape and your A-size portrait, and also your walls layer should be current right up here. If I look up here, it should say walls. And if it doesn't say walls, just click on that little button there and make sure that you click on walls so that walls is the current layer, because we want to be drawing on walls. Nothing else, just walls. And I will be checking for that as I check over your drawings. All right, so our room.
Hi, sorry to interrupt, Paul. If you make a mistake and draw on the wrong layer, is there a way to click on it and add it back to the correct layer?
Yeah, there is. So let's just say I'm drawing on my text layer, and I drew a line. Let me turn my ortho mode on here, and that wall, that line, that bottom wall there is 28 feet 6. So I'll just type 28'6", enter. So I drew my first line, 28.6, and oh crap, it's coming in green. That tells me I'm on the wrong layer, and sure enough, it's on the text layer. So all I need to do is select the layer, and I've just clicked on it, and it kind of turns a little bit blue, and we see the grips on the layer. And then I just go up to my layers here and say, put it on walls. And you'll notice just as I hover over it, notice how it's changing color. that corresponds with the layer that I happen to be scrolling down with up on this drop down here. So I'll just go on to walls and click on that. And now I'm on the walls layer. Good
Thank you.
question. All right, so I have my room 28.6 and I'm going to continue on. So I'll just click on line here. And I want to make sure, by the way, that I have my object snap, my O snap on right down here. I can click it on and off with this little button here in the lower right. Or, of course, I can use F3, which is object snap. And I want to make sure that my perpendicular, my ortho mode is on. So that is this button right here. Again, I can toggle that on and off. Or to turn ortho on and off, I just hit F8, and that will turn it on and off also. So I'm in my line command, and it's telling me to specify the first point, and I'm just going to move my cursor over, and until boink there, you'll notice that little square, that green square has highlighted right at the end point. So I know that I'm right at the end point of that line. Not near it, but exactly on it, which is just what I want. So I'll left click, and now I can draw my line. Oh my gosh, I'm still on my text layer, aren't I? So rather than draw any further, I'm going to hit escape to get out of the line command. And then I'm going to go up to my layers here, and I will click down on walls. Now I'm on my walls layer. So let's try that again. This time I'll type L and enter for the line command. It's asking me to specify the first point. I'll just click on this endpoint and then move up in the direction that I want, which is 26 feet 7 inches. 26. I'm using the little foot mark, the apostrophe, and then 7. I don't need to hit the type the inches, you know, the double quote. AutoCAD knows that I'm working in inches, and I'll just hit enter, and it has drawn a line exactly 26.7. Then I want to come back here, and I want to draw a line 26 feet. So I'll just type 26 feet. I don't have to type 0 for inches. I just type 26 and the little foot mark, the single quote, hit enter. There's a line that's 26. And I'll move down, and I'm looking at my handout, and it's 4'9" in the down here. So I'll just type 4'9", enter. And then I'm going to go to the left, and it wants to go 2.5 feet. So I'll type 2'6", enter. And then I need to go down 21'10", which I can do. But if all works out correctly, I can come down here, and you'll notice that AutoCAD has OSnap, that object snap is that little green perpendicular sign, which is saying it's going to draw a line that's perpendicular to this horizontal line here, which is just what I want. Or I could just, you know, go, I'm just move it around, and it'll go to the endpoint there, which is the square. Either one will work. I'll just hit enter. And now I have the outline, the finished outline of my room. When I say finished outline, that means the actual dimensions of the finished space of my room. So I'm going to draw some walls, and those walls will be, I'm going to draw them, I'll draw them 5 inches, and I'm going to draw them out so that they're on the outside of this finished space. So to do that, I will use the offset command, and the offset tool is right here under all of the, in this modify palette here. There's a draw palette, and then to the right, modify palette. I'm going to click on offset, and it is going to ask me right here, specify the offset distance. How far do you want to offset the whatever lines you're going to be offsetting? And in this case, I'm going to choose 5 inches. I'm going to do 5-inch lines. So I'll type 5. I don't need to type inches. I'll just type 5 and enter. And now my cursor has changed into a pick box, and AutoCAD is asking me to select the object I want to offset. So I'll start, I can start anywhere. I'll just start here. I'm going to click that object. And then AutoCAD's asking me, specify a point on the side I want to offset. So do I want to offset on this side of that line that's highlighted or on this side? I'll just zoom in here a bit. So I don't want to go on the inside. I want to go on the outside of the room. I'm just going to click. And the offset line command continues. You'll notice that I still have the pick box selected and AutoCAD saying select object to offset. This is the object I want to offset. And now it's asking the side to offset, inside or outside? Outside. Select object, select side. Select object, select side. Select object, select side. Okay, so now I have all of my walls offset and AutoCAD is still, are there any more objects you want to offset? No, I don't. So I'm just going to hit enter. I could also hit the space bar. That would also get me out of the command. So now I have the walls going around my space and these walls need some cleaning up. So I'm going to use the fillet command to clean up those walls. So the fillet command is right here and I'm going to click on it. Now, someone asked me a really good question. They noticed that when they filleted two lines, they were not getting a square fillet. So when I'm filleting by default, I select one line and then I select the next line and it's filleting a nice square corner, which is exactly what I want. But what they were finding is they were getting a radius here. It was a curved corner, which sometimes you really have a use for. And the fillet allows us to do radius fillets. We can do radius fillets. And for whatever reason, that person had, who was that had that? I'm just trying to remember who it was. Well, anyway, it's okay. We can do a radius fillet if we want. So down here in the fillet command, it's saying select the first object, or there are some options here: undo, polyline, radius, trim, and multiple. And right here, radius, I can select a radius. So the fillet radius right here is by default set to 0. But I can change it to something else that I want. I'll change it to 4, just for argument. So I'll just type 4, and that would be 4 inches. That would be a 4-inch radius. So when I go, I'll select this object and then this object, you'll notice that there is a little radius corner, which is kind of cool. And what that radius is that is a arc. It's its own object. So I have a line object here. I have a radius, and then I have another line object here. So I could undo that, or I could go back into the fillet command, fillet, and this time it's asking me for the first object, but this time I will click on radius, and you'll notice that the radius is set to 4, which is not what I want. I want the radius to be 0. So I'll just hit 0 and then enter. And then if I fillet this line and this line, it's a nice clean square corner, but it left this piece. So I'll just click on that and I'll just hit the delete key and get rid of it. So that is 2 ways to fillet. There's a square fillet and there is a radius fillet. So if when you're working in AutoCAD, for some reason, you're getting radius corners, that's how you can resolve that. Again, fillet command, this time I'll just type F, enter, and then click on radius, and you can change the radius. By the way, you'll notice that here, where it says select first object, up here, it says what the fillet radius setting or fillet settings are, the current settings. The mode is trim and the radius is set to 0. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to fillet these corners. I'll just click fillet, click that corner, that line, and this line. And you'll notice that when I'm done with the fillet, I'm making that fillet, AutoCAD goes back to my command line. I'm not, unlike offset, where it just keeps repeating offset, for whatever reason, AutoCAD does not repeat the fillet command. So I need to either go back up here and click on fillet, or type F for fillet, or I can just hit the space bar or the enter key, and my fillet command, I'm back in my fillet command, and I can easily continue on. So this is this is where I will definitely use the my keyboard, because it's easy. My hand is hovering over my space bar or my enter key, and I'll just hit the space bar again, fill up those corners, space bar again. And I've cleaned up. And now I have all of the walls set in my drawing. Beautiful. Okay. So now, let me just bring my drawing back here. I have a door that I want to put in. Now I can, let me zoom in here. I can draw this door, you know, draw the leaf of the door, you know, the thickness of it, and draw the door swing. But AutoCAD has some help for us, and they are called blocks. And if you remember, if you worked in SketchUp, for instance, a lot of times what we could do is combine different lines or planes or circles or different objects in SketchUp, and we could group them together into what are called components. Well, AutoCAD works in a very similar way, and those objects can be combined into blocks. And we could, if we want, convert all of these line segments here, because each of these are line segments. Right? When I click on them, one line segment you know, is highlighted, and we could convert all of those to blocks. There's no reason to, and we don't need to, but we could if we wanted. And later on in the semester, we will be converting a whole bunch of lines into blocks. But AutoCAD has a couple blocks that are already set up for us. And one of them is a door. And these blocks are called dynamic blocks because we can do things with these blocks. We can make, even though they're all working together, we can make changes to the blocks. It's really super cool, and it's really a neat, handy tool. So how do I get into my blocks? I'm going to, or view these blocks. I'm going to click on the View tab here. And over here, sort of midway here in my View tab, there is a tab here called Tool Palettes. I'll click on Tool Palettes here, and this palette comes up. And you'll notice that this is similar to the Layers palette, right? The you know, the Tool palette is here on the side here, and I move it not from the top here, but over on the side, and I can move it left and right. And also I can dock my tool palettes off to the left if I want. And this is something that often I do. I'm not going to do it right now, but I do dock my palettes from time to time. I'm just going to close the tool palette, and there is a shortcut to accessing your tool palette, and that is hitting Control-3. Not a very intuitive shortcut, but if you hit Control-3, your tool palettes will come up. So I'm going to move this front and center, and my tool, you'll notice that on the side here, there are a number of tabs that open up different tool palettes that I can use, and we'll use some of these, but the main one is under Architecture, and my Architecture tab happens to be up here on the right side, and it's also open by default. Yours may not be open by default to Architecture, so you may need to scroll down and find the Architecture tool tab, the tab on the palette, or what you can do is down here in the left corner, and because this is gray, the palette is gray on a gray background. It's a little bit hard to see, but over here, if I right click, all of my palettes come up this way and I can see what all of my palettes are. And what I want to do is click on architectural to make sure that my architecture palette is up. And you'll notice that it starts off with imperial samples and then down here, metric samples. So what's imperial and metric? Well, metric is using metric units, and feet and inches is called imperial units, or in this case, imperial settings, but imperial units. So whenever you're working in imperial, you are working in feet and inches, and that's what we want to do. And our first object right here is door imperial, and that's the one we're going to use. So I'm just going to click on it. I'm just going to, well, I guess there's a couple ways to do it. I'll just click and then move my cursor, and there's a little door. Or what I can do is I can click and drag, and a little door comes into my drawing. By the way, the little lightning bolt here, that signifies that this is a dynamic tool, a dynamic block. And that means that I can do extra things with this block. And I'll show it to you in just a minute. So there, I've pulled in a door, and I am right now, I'm done with this. So I'll just close this for now. Or if you want, you could dock it off to the left, but I'm just going to close mine. And there is my door. It's open at, I think, 45 or 30 degrees here by default. And when I click on it, you'll notice that all of it turns blue. And there are a bunch of crazy funny grips here that highlight. And these grips kind of look a little different. They have little arrows on here. And that's where the dynamic tools come in handy. I can make adjustments to this door using these grips. For instance, this grip right here, when I click on it, this allows me to change the door opening. So if right now it's set to 30 degrees. If I want the door to be open 45 degrees, I'll just click 45. There it is, done for me. Or 60 or 90. There it is, 90. And if I want the door closed, there's the door closed. So this is cool. I can change my door from 45 degrees or 30 degrees to a 90-degree door. By the way, when do you use a 30-degree or a 90-degree door? Well, sometimes you'll have two doors, like say your front door in your house, and you might have a closet behind it, and you don't want the two doors to sort of intersect. So one might be set to 30 degrees or 45 degrees so that they don't, bump into each other. Another convention that sometimes some designers use is that for existing doors, they show them at 45 degrees. Well, let me show that. 45 degrees. So when a contractor is looking at your construction drawings and he sees a whole bunch of doors that are 45 degrees, he goes, aha, those are existing doors that are already there. But you want to cut a new door or add a new wall with new doors, and maybe you have 2 or 3 new doors in your redesign. You want to show those doors at 90 degrees. So generally, and this isn't always the case, but sometimes new doors are always shown at 90 degrees, but sometimes existing doors are shown at 45 degrees. For the sake of argument, we're going to put all of our doors at 90 degrees. So what else is on here? Well, there's a little grip here, and this sets the door size. So right now, my door is set to, here, let me turn my dynamic input on. I just used F12 to do that. So right now, that door is set to well, it's not really telling me where is it. Let's see if my I'm going to make sure that, yes, I'm on architectural. Oh, I thought that this would tell me, oh, there it is. So I'm not clicking on it. I'm just hovering over it. And you'll notice that the 3'4" has come up. So these are generally the standard door sizes. So if I click down, there's a little tag here, and now that door is 3 feet. And I can set it to 2'8" or 2'6", 2'4". Sometimes you have a bathroom door that's 2'4", or 2'6". And sometimes you'll have a closet door that's 2 feet. So these are the sort of standard sizes of doors, and they're all preset for us. So I can, if I want to change the size of that door, I'll just hit that little grip here. And I want my door to be 3 feet wide. That's the most common size door, particularly for a commercial job project, which this is, it's a classroom. So I'll just hit 3 feet. Now my door is 3 feet wide. And down here is the wall thickness. And you'll notice that when I'm not even clicking, I'm just hovering over it. AutoCAD is telling me that that thickness is 6 inches. I can change that to 5 inches or 4 inches. And in this case, I made my walls 5 inches, so I want to change my door thickness, my jamb, to 5 inches. And then these little buttons over here will change the swing of the door. If I want the door to swing that way, that button will toggle it back and forth. And if I want the door to swing this way, I can click on that button. So I have a lot of control over how I want to move, control my door. So this is in general the way that I want the door to be, but I want to rotate it 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on it, and I'm going to just hover over this point here, and this is where this is the hinge point of the door. And I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to click on rotate. And what it's going to do is it's going to rotate around that hinge point. I think, oh, no, I guess it's not. I need to specify the base point. So I'm down here, rotate, specify the base point. So I'm specifying the point I want the object to rotate around. And I'm just going to click this point here. And now I can rotate it, and it's rotating exactly in 90-degree increments. Why is it doing that? Because I have my ortho on. If I turned ortho off, it would rotate any degree that I want. And if I type a degree, it will snap to and rotate it those degrees. For instance, if I type 90, enter, it will snap and rotate 90 degrees exactly. Okay, so now I have my door in place, but before I do, let me just look at my door here, and I've got a door frame here and a door frame here on both jambs of the door. And then I have a frame here for my side light. So in general, and I'm showing it right here. All right, let me just zoom out here. I have a little note here that says 2-inch door frames. In general, in this class, all of our door frames will be for 2 inches. And that's generally what a door frame is in this industry. If you're working on a really old home, that door frame may actually be a different dimension. But in general, door frames in residential and particularly in commercial projects are 2 feet, 2 inches, not 2 feet. All right, so let's go back to our drawing. We'll just leave that there for a moment. And I'm going to start drawing some door jambs or some door frames. So I'll go back to my home tab here, and I'm going to click on the line tool, and I'm going to draw a line here, and I'll go across, and I have my O snaps on, so it's going to perpendicular, which is exactly what I want. And I'll just click. It wants to draw another line, but I'm done, so I'm just going to hit my space bar or the enter key to end the command. And while I'm here, I'll draw another line here. So I'll get back into the line command. And again, I can just hit enter and I'm back in the line command. It's asking me to specify the first point. I'll just click this point here, that end point. I want to be exact. And then go over here, go perpendicular. All right. Now I have those two door jamb or lines there, and I'm going to create the door frames or the door jambs. So I'm going to offset these by 2 inches. So I'll go up over to the offset command or type 0 to get into offset. And AutoCAD is asking me, what is the offset distance? And you'll notice that it's by default, it's set to 5. It remembered the last offset distance that we used, which was the thickness of the walls. But we don't want 5 this time, we want 2. So I'm just going to type 2 and enter. And now AutoCAD has changed to a pick box and it's saying, select the object to offset. So I'm going to offset this. I'm going to come down 2 inches. I'll select this, come up 2 inches, and then I'll just hit enter. And now I want the 3-foot opening because that door is going to be 3 feet wide. So I'm going to offset 3 feet. So I'll go back to offset. This time I'll just type O and enter. Specify the offset distance. It's saying 2. I could type 3 feet, or I happen to know that 3 feet is 36 inches. So in this case, I'm going to type 36, enter. But you could type 3 feet, whatever you like. And I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go down to 3 feet. And then what I think I'll do is I'm going to trim this out so that this is an opening here. So I'll go over to trim. And it's asking the object to trim. Let me just hover over it. And what it's going to do is it's going to trim up to this portion of the line, up to the 2 nearest obstructions, which would be this line here and this line here. If I want to trim in this area, notice if I go over here, I'm just hovering over, it's trimming here from this line to this line. And I want to go over here. I'm just going to click that. And I'll click that. And then if it's continuing the trim command, it's asking objects to trim. I'm done trimming, so I'll just hit my enter key or my spacebar key and get out of the trim command. And then let's just put in this frame here. So I'll go back to the offset command. It's asking for the offset distance, which is 3 feet, not what I want. I want 2 inches. So I'll type 2, enter. And then I'll offset and make sure I'm not going into the door space. I want to go into the sidelight space. And then this sidelight is whatever it is, right? Whatever's left over. So the convention for drawing a sidelight is to just draw a line from the midpoint of this door frame here to the midpoint of that door frame, a nice vertical line. So I'll just go over to my line command here. And I will find the midpoint. So I'm just moving there. That little triangle tells me that AutoCAD has found the midpoint for me. If you're not seeing that, then make sure that you have your OSNAP on. And if your OSNAP is on and you're still not seeing it, click on the little arrow here to the right and make sure that you have midpoint checked here. So the defaults that you really always want to have on are endpoint, midpoint, center, absolutely for sure. I like to have quadrant. You can or don't have to if you want. And then intersection and perpendicular. Those are the ones that you absolutely want to have on. Okay, so I'm still in the line command here, and it's asking for the first point. I'm going to go to that see there, it's wanting to go to the end point, and I don't want that. I want to go to the midpoint. There's the midpoint. I'll left click. And then I have my ortho off, but that's okay. It can be off. I'm going to look for the midpoint. There it is. I'll click. And now I'm still in the line command, so I'm just going to hit my space bar or enter key, either one. And now I have my sidelight. So now all I need to do is I need to move my door into position in the in the door frame here. So I will click on the move tool, and I can either click on the move tool or type M. That is the shortcut command for move. And it's asking me to select the objects that I want to move. And all I want to move is this door. And if this wasn't a block, I would have to select this piece of line, this piece of line, this piece of line, this piece of line, this arc. I would have to select all of those, but it's a block, so it's all clumped together, so I don't need to do that. All right, I'm done selecting objects, so I'll just hit my space bar, and it's asking for the base point. So let's think about this. Where do we want to move this? Because there is a correct space location to move your door and an incorrect. So what I want to do is, I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit. What I want is, I want to start right at this point here, right at the edge, the outside edge of the leaf of the door. And that point is, that's where the hinge of the door is located in actuality, in real life. That's where the hinge is. Next time, when you're out at the store or at Starbucks, or even in your home, take a look at where the door hinges are on the door. They're sort of right at that corner. So I'm going to choose this selection as my base point. And I just left clicked, and now I'm in the move tool. I'm moving around where I want. If you have ortho on, I'll just click ortho on here. You'll notice that it's moving in vertical and horizontal dimension or direction. But if I choose, I have ortho on, and I choose this point here, it will snap to that point. It will override these orthos. But I'm just going to turn ortho on just so you can sort of see the move more clearly. All right, so I'm taking the I'm starting to move at the hinge point of the door, and then I want to move it where the hinge is on the door jamb, on the door frame, which is this point right here, this corner of the door frame. Not here or anywhere else on here, or not here, but here. So I'll click there, and my door is in place. So how do I know that gosh, I can't remember where exactly I was supposed to move that door, where that hinge point is. So what I can do is, I'm just going to click on this, and I'm going to change this door so it's closed. I'm just going to click on closed here. And you'll notice that I'm just going to hit escape to unhighlight. The door completely fills the opening. So we know that it's the right size, which is good. And everything is flush on the outside of the door. And that's exactly what we want. If I had
a question.
Yes.
I think because I have a Mac, I am having a hard time finding the door. What is the abbreviation for it again? That I can
Well,
type it in?
on the computer, on the PC, it's Control 3, 1, 2, 3, or yeah, I don't know if you have a view palette.
Yeah, so that actually gets rid of the palette. Does anyone else have a Mac that can find it, that can describe it to me?
Well, can you? Let's see. I think the Mac equivalent of Control is Command, right? So if you hit Command 3, will your palettes?
Right, I have a Mac, and I really struggled, but you're right. Command is usually Control.
So if you hit Command 3, your palette should be able to should open up. I hope. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have it. Interesting. So this thing that you have up here right now, that your cursor is right next to, that's what comes up when you press Control 3.
That's correct.
Interesting. Okay, but there's no abbreviation for a door other than that?
No. I'll have to do a little homework, and I guess you may have to do a little homework, but I'll try to figure out how to open up a palette on a MacBook or on your Mac. But right now, I'm sorry, I just don't have the answer for you. All right. But I will. Who is this that's asking?
Jacqueline.
Okay, Jacqueline. I'll try to find out the answer to that and let you know. Okay.
Thank you.
So let me open up my door again to 90 degrees. All right. So there I have my my door in place, and let me go back to my image here, and I think that's it. So now I have my all of my architecture in place. All that's left at this point is to start to put some dimensions in. So and to start to work in Paperspace. So let me move that out of the way. And I guess what I want to do also is save my drawing. And this is something I should have done right at the very beginning. So I'm going to just click on the save button here. And I'm going to scroll down to my jump drive here, go to my CAD class. And again, I have two folders that I created, a templates folder and a projects folder. And I'm going to click on projects folder, and I'm going to call this something meaningful like project 1A. And I'll save it. And by the way, you'll notice that my tab here has changed to project 1A. So I know that I have it named. And also up at the very top, it should say project 1A. All right. And I apologize, that should have been the very first thing that that you should do. As soon as you open up a new file with a template, you should give it a name. All right.
I have a quick question really fast. Sorry, is that okay?
No, yes, please.
Okay, so right when you open up this template that you already created for us and we downloaded and everything, are the units already adjusted or do we make them architectural on our own?
No, the units have been already set for you. So the units are set to architectural, so you don't need to do that anymore.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. So now I'm going to start looking more closely at Paperspace. Again, we're in model space, and I have in the lower left-hand corner, I have the model tab highlighted, and you'll notice that your background is black or dark gray. In this case, it's not exactly black. And we're going to draw in landscape. So, or our sheet is going to be set up in landscape. So I'm going to click on the A-size landscape tab here and get into Paperspace. And what we've done is we've already created a title block for you. It has a border and a sheet number and a location for projects and your name and blah, 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 all that good stuff. It's all set up for you. So what we need to do is we need to get this onto this. And the way we do that is with a viewport. Think of a viewport as a hole in your piece of paper. So think of this as your piece of paper, and a viewport is a hole. And when you look through that hole, you're looking into model space over here. It's kind of like cutting a hole in Paperspace and then looking down into our drawing in model space. So just bear with me for just 1 second here. So I am going to switch over to the Manage tab here on my ribbon up here. And something has moved here. Okay. All right, scratch that. Sorry. I'm going to move to the Layout tab here. For some reason, Layout used to be over here, and I was looking for it over here, and I was clicking View, and I got myself confused. Layout, the Layout tab here is all the way on the right side here. And from here, we're going to create a viewport. And there is a palette here called Layout Viewports right here. And I'm going to create a rectangular viewport. And when I just move my mouse up here, it says Viewports Rectangular. Another way I can, and I'll just create it right here. I'll just click on it, and I'm going to click a upper left-hand corner and a lower right-hand corner. And there is my drawing. It has now appeared in a viewport in my Paperspace sheet. Let me just undo that, Control Z. Another way to do that is with the command line to make a viewport, and that is MV Enter. And now I can do the same thing. I just create a viewport, and it's created a viewport for me. So there's two ways to do it: MV, M as in make, and V as in viewport, or to use the rectangular viewport up here. Yes, someone had a question.
Hi, Paul, it's Yolanda. So is this like a layer, or is this actually like ink on paper?
It is, well, it's neither really. It is a, think of it as a hole in your piece of paper that's looking into your model space drawing. I guess if I had to choose one of those answers, Yolanda, I would have said ink on paper. So just bear with me, and I will we'll continue on here. So I've got a viewport here. When I hover over it, this highlights, and I have my drawing in here. And when I'm panning, I'm moving my whole piece of paper. And when I'm zooming my whole piece of paper. But what I can do is I can edit, or I can reach through this hole, this viewport, into model space, and I can make some changes. If I double click on this, and what I did was I just double clicked, and now you'll notice that this viewport has highlighted here, and you'll notice that my UCS icon has appeared here in my lower left-hand corner. Now I am making changes in that viewport, not on the paper space around it, not where the title block is, but to the actual drawing area itself. So if I move my mouse wheel, I'm changing the size of my drawing on my piece of paper. Or if I pan, I'm panning left and right, and I'm moving my drawing on my piece of paper. So I am arranging my drawing on my piece of paper. And then if
Paul, Paul.
Go ahead.
If you went back to model now, will they automatically change onto the landscape page that you're on? If you just want to go back and altering in model space, is it going to update it automatically?
Well, all I'm doing right here is I'm moving. It's as if I'm sort of moving my head and I'm looking at the view on my piece of paper. If I switch to model space, it's still exactly the same. But let me go here and let me draw a line. Okay, so now I drew a line and I'm in model space because I know that my UCS icon is highlighted here. And I go back to model space here. There's that line. I've actually drawn it in my model. Let me go back to paper space here and let me switch out of the editing model space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click out here. And that stopped highlighting. And let me draw another line. This line is in paper space. And I know that because when I go back to model here, that line doesn't appear. So this line is like drawing on my sheet of paper, but I'm not reaching into my model space, into my drawing and making changes there. I know it's a little bit overwhelming at first when you're first trying to wrap your head around it, but you'll get used to it as we go along. So I want to get rid of this. So I'll just delete, I'll just highlight it and I'm going to hit my delete key. And this one, I can't click on this. Why not? Because this was drawn in model space. So I can double click in the viewport. And now I'm in model space and now I can click it and hit the delete key and get rid of it. And now I'll go back to paper space and I'll just double click out here and I'm back in paper space. How do I know I'm in paper space? Well, that UCS icon has disappeared here. And you'll notice in the lower left-hand corner, the model space icon has appeared here. Also, and you may have noticed this before, and we haven't talked about it, but there is a little button here that says paper. And that tells me that I am in paper space. If I click on this, you'll notice that now automatically, I didn't have to double click into the viewport. I am in paper space. I know that I'm in paper space because there's that UCS icon. And the viewport is highlighted. And you'll notice that as I'm in the UCS, as I'm in the viewport, my cursor is, the crosshairs. And when I move my cursor out here, it is just the little arrow. So I can do stuff in here. I can't do stuff out here. All right, I'm going to go back into paper space. So I could double click out here, or I'm going to click on model. And now I'm in model space. Now, one thing that we want to do right away that I haven't done right now is I want to change this viewport and put this viewport on the viewports layer. So I'm going to select the viewport and I will go over to my home tab here and I will go look for my walls here. Right now it's on the walls layer. How do I know that? Because walls is selected. This is selected and walls is selected. I'll click on this and we'll go down to viewport and click on it. And you'll notice that I'll just hit escape to deselect it. Now you'll notice that your viewport is on the viewports layer. This is really, 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 really important. And I will check this also. I'll take a point off if your viewport is not on the viewports layer. It's really important. Okay. So now we have our little drawing here set on the sheet of paper, and it looks great, but we want it to be at a scale, right? Back in the intro class, we were drawing things to scale, a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch scale, and we want our drawing to be to scale as well. So how do we do that? I'm going to click on the viewport. I'm just clicking on it. I'm not going into it. I'm just selecting the viewport. And down here, there is this weird, funky number. And this is identifying, this is telling me what the scale of that viewport is. In fact, when I just hover over it, it says scale of the selected viewport. So this is just some weird nonsense scale, because when I was in here, I was just kind of zooming in and out, you know, meaninglessly. And so let me just go out and I'll select the viewport again. So this is at some, you know, weird funky scale. I want to turn this into a scale that's meaningful. So I'm just going to click on this little arrow here. And there are a whole bunch of default scales here. There are some scales right here. And down here are some architectural scales. And the common ones are 1/4 inch scale, 1/4 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches. 1/8 equals 1 foot 0 inches. 3/32, 3/16. So these are the common architectural scales. So let's see what happens when I click on 1/4 inch. So it zoomed in, and this is, if I were dropping my scale, my architectural scale down on the sheet of paper, this would be the size of that drawing for 1/4 inch to be the accurate scale. Well, that's a little bit big, right? Because part of my drawing is off my sheet of paper here. And by the way, I can change the size of this viewport easily by just clicking on one of those grips. I can make that viewport, you know, big or small. I generally like to keep it close to my border, but not on the border. I like to just bring it in a little bit close, but not on. So 1/4 inch scale is not going to work for us here. So I have my viewport selected, and let me go down here, right there, it's at 1/4 inch. Let me click and let's try 1/8 inch. So I'll go to 1/8 inch. Well, that works. I have all of my space, all of my my whole room on my drawing. There's a lot of white space around it. So maybe this is I don't know, maybe this is a little small. Maybe we can make it a little bit bigger. So let me go back to here. And this time I'll go in between 1/8 and 1/4, and I'll choose 3/16 inch equals a foot. There we go. Now I have all of my drawing and it fits, you know, pretty nicely on my sheet of paper. I'll double click in my viewport, or I'll just click, this time I'll click on model space to get in there. And now you'll notice that my viewport is highlighted and I have my UCS icon and it says model space down here. So I know that I'm now in model space, or sometimes I'll call this white model space because it's model space, but it's white rather than the black model space over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pan. And I'm just going to move this into a location that I like. I'm just kind of positioning this on the sheet of paper. And then when I'm done, I'll go back to paper space. And now I have my drawing the way I'm going to want to show it on my sheet of paper. And it's to a scale. What scale is it? If I've forgotten, I can click on the viewport and look right down here. There it is. I'm at 3/16 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches.
Hey, Paul, I have a question. This is Lisa.
Mhm.
As far as the scale on the title block, obviously nothing's getting automatically inputted when you change the scale. Is that something that we're going to learn later on how to change that information?
Yeah, I'll show you that I'll show you that today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Unfortunate. I wish that it would automatically change. You know, it would be cool as I saved this, changed the scale, this viewport, the scale down here changed. But unfortunately, we'll have to do it by hand. All right. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to add some dimensions onto this little drawing here. So I want to be careful of two things. I want to make sure that I am working in the dimensions on the dimensions layer. And I want to make sure that I am in model space and not dimensioning on the sheet of paper. I want to be dimensioning in the actual model. So I'm I'm going to go up number one. I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to dimensions right there. I'll click on it and my dimensions layer is active. Oh, you know what? There's one more thing that before I get into dimensions, there is one more very, very important thing that I want to do. And that is I want to lock my viewport. So I'm going to click on the viewport. And down here to the left of the scale, there is a little lock here. And when I hover over it, it will say select viewports. Selected viewports are not locked. And I'm going to click on that and it highlights and the little lock symbol highlights and lights up. And that viewport is now locked. So what does that mean? Well, if I go into my viewport, I'll go into model space here and I go into viewport and I want to pan. Remember before I was panning and moving around and I'm in model space here. I can see my UCS icon here. But as I move, I am moving my whole paper space drawing, even though I am in model space. If I select the viewport, I can't change the scale anymore. So it has locked this viewport in place for me. And that's a good thing because sometimes if I'm making some changes, let's say I want to zoom in and I want to draw some dimensions and I want to zoom in into this area. And I zoom in, you notice it's zooming in into the whole drawing. And I'm zooming in, but I'm still in model space here. But if my viewport is unlocked, I'm going to click on it and I'll unlock the viewport right here. And now I go into model space and I zoom in. Oh, I'm zooming in and I'm changing the scale of my drawing with respect to the paper. And by the way, look at my scale. It's gone to this weird scale here. So that's not good. We don't want to do that. We want to maintain our scale. Once we set our scale, we don't want to screw around and we don't want to fool with it again. So I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times here. There, get back, and I'll click on my viewport. I want to make sure that I'm at 3/16, and then I'm going to lock my viewport. This is really, really, really critical, and it's easy to forget. You'll see, I forgot, right? So please don't forget to do it. You will make your life miserable as you start zooming in and you realize you're zooming in model space and you're changing the scale of your drawing with respect to your sheet of paper. So, okay, I have my drawing. It's at 3/16 of an inch. The scale of my drawing is at 3/16 of an inch. My viewport is on the viewports layer, and my viewport is also locked. Now I can go in and start thinking about dimensioning. And dimensioning in AutoCAD is like really, really easy. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and I'm going to get into model space. I'll just click on this paper toggle here. And now I'm in model space. I see my UCS icon. My viewport is highlighted. I know that I'm in model space and I know that I'm on my dimensions layer right here. Dimension is highlighted. So on the home ribbon here, there is a little dimension tab here, or a little palette here under annotation. And this is just really generalized. We want to be a little more specific with our dimensioning. And this is not the palette that I'd like you to use. What I'd like you to do is go over to Annotate. Annotate is to put dimensions and notes onto your drawings. And so I'm going to click on Annotate here, and then there is some dimension stuff over here. And there are two dimension commands here that are really, really helpful to us. And these are the ones that we're going to use. Linear dimensioning and continue or continuous dimensioning. And we'll talk about both of them, but I'm going to start with linear dimensioning. So I'll click on linear dimensioning, and I want to make sure that I'm reaching through my Paperspace viewport and I'm making changes to my actual drawing here in ModelSpace. And I'll start down here, and I'm going to select the first point that I want my dimension to start on, this one right here, that endpoint. And then I will choose this one over here. And if all works well, there's my dimension. And you'll notice it's in a magenta color because it's on my, my dimensions layer. And I want to bring my dimension down over here. And you'll notice it's drawing extension lines. It's drawing the ticks. It's cutting the dimension line for me. And then I clicked enter, and there is my dimension. 28.6, and remembered it. It's going from this point to this point. If I don't like where I put that dimension, I can just click on it, and there's some grips over here, and I can move that down, increase those extension lines. If this is, let's just say I accidentally went over here, oops, I picked the wrong spot, I can click on that grip there and go right to that point I want. So there is that dimension. And let's just peek over at ModelSpace. When we come down over here, and lo and behold, there it is. That dimension is drawn in ModelSpace, but we did it by reaching through Paperspace and doing it here. Okay, so let's work our way around. I usually like to, let me just go back to the example here. Bear with me here for a second. When I'm dimensioning, I generally like to stack my dimensions. So I have 1 and 2 dimensions here, or I'll have, 2 rows of dimensions over here. In this example, the dimensions run all the way around all 4 sides. And I think that's just to make it easier for you because we're just starting out. So that's perfectly fine. So we'll just dimension it around just like we did here. So let's continue around, and I'll zoom in just to make it a little bit easier for myself here. And I'm going to choose linear dimension. I'm not going to choose this dimension command, this dimension button here. I'm going to choose dimension on the dimension palette. I'm going to choose linear dimension. And I'll choose that point. Make sure that my OSNAP is on so that I'm picking those exact points. And let's continue on up here. Now, I want to dimension this piece of wall here from this point to this point and just have a dimension line here. Well, we've already gone this far. Continue allows us to keep going and adding dimensions to a dimension string. And this is a dimension line here, and any more dimensions that we would put on would be a dimension string. We can continue adding dimensions by clicking on the continue button here. So if I click continue, now AutoCAD's already ready to go with the next dimension. And I'll just click this point right here. And if I wanted, I could add dimension. I could just keep going and going and going. I don't want to do that, so I'll erase those dimensions. But I was easily able to get that 2.6 in here. So now let's add a string over here, and I'll start up here and go to this corner and then to this corner down here. So I'll start with linear. And I'll choose that point and this point. Locate my dimension. And then I could do linear again and start with that point over there, but I'll choose continue here. And just all I need to do is click on that point there and I'm done. So I've got all my dimensions on, and there's one thing more that I want to do, and that is I want to add a little note here that tells the contractor that we're going to be using 2-inch door frames. So over here is a little multi-leader. This is I can draw leaders and notes with leaders on it. So I'll click multi-leader here, and I'm just going to click a point on my door frame there, and I'll just draw a little leader here. And AutoCAD gives you the opportunity to continue your leaders. I'm not going to, so I'll just hit my Enter key or space bar. And now, it moves it a little bit, but and now AutoCAD is in a text command, or I can type in some text. I want to make sure that my caps lock is on, because we only type in caps when we're doing drawings, capitals. 2-inch door frame. And when I'm done typing, I'll go up here and close my text editor. And now I have all that I want in my drawing done. If I go over to model space, you'll notice that all of my dimensions are right here in model space. I drew them in paper space here.
Is the reason that we didn't do the whole thing in model space because we can't scale in model space?
Yeah, that is the reason. I have set this viewport to 3/16 of an inch. So what AutoCAD is doing is it's setting the size of these dimensions, the height of the text, so that it's correct for 3/16 inch scale. If I drew it in here, I'd have to draw these. This text would be like, well, this wall is 5 inches, so this would be like 8 inches, this text height here. And it's just too confusing. You don't want to do that. So when I'm doing my dimensioning and my texts in paper space through a paper space viewport, AutoCAD sets that dimension for me. So yes, you are correct that by doing it this way, these sizes are set for us. So now all that's left is for me to change this project and title over in my title block. Well, I can't do it, right? Why? Because I am in model space right now. And I know that because I see my UCS icon here, and down here on this button, I'm in model space. So I can double click outside, or I can just click on the model button here. And now I'm in paper space, and now I can select this. So we'll do some text editing here. I'm just going to double click on project here. And all I do, I could leave that and add the project name, or I could just erase it all. Either way. So I'm going to call this in caps, project 1A. And when I'm done typing, what I can do is I can click outside of the text box, or I can go here and close text editor. When I start editing text, this text editor will come up on my ribbon. And I can, I can change font and what layer that the text is and all of that stuff. But I'm just going to close the text editor here. Now I have project 1A. And a title of the project is classroom plan. And the location, this is sort of College of DuPage. your name here. So what the other thing, what I've been doing is sort of adding on to the text, but if you want to erase, get rid of it, what I do is I usually kind of go to the end of the text and then I just drag to the left and then I can overwrite. Interior is 12/12. The date, whatever the date happens to be. Does anyone know what the date is? June 14th? Say 14th?
The 21st.
21st.
Thank you. And the scale. What is the scale of our drawing? It is 3. Well, if you don't remember, you can click on the viewport and there it is. 3/16 of an inch equals 1 foot. I'm going to double click on this. And I'm going to type 3/16 inches. And what AutoCAD has done is it has changed this to stacked dimensions. And I'm not a real fan of stacked dimensions, particularly when it's in a title block. So there's a little lightning bolt here, and I'm just going to click on that lightning bolt, and I can change this to diagonal stacks. Watch. So it's changed it to a diagonal stack, but I'm going to take the stacking off. So I'm going to unstack right here. Now it's just regular 3/16 of an inch space equals space 1 foot dash 0 inches. So this is and I'm done text editing. I'll just hit enter. This is the traditional way that in your intro class, if you took intro and you had to write the scale, this is what we would write: scale : 3/16 of an inch equals 1 foot 0 inches. And what we would do is in that class, you would have a title of your drawing here within the border of your drawing. But in this case, we have space for the title of our drawing and the scale of our drawing within the title block. So we don't need to put that title in our drawing here. It's all over here. And that is it. You'll save your drawing. Just click on save here. And you are done with your very first project, 1A. Any questions?
Yes, this is Jackie Paul. If you wanted to copy this whole thing and create a new sheet to just, make a few changes on a new tab, is there just like do you just select everything, copy, and then hit the plus thing and then just paste, and you could have everything you just did to make some modifications to turn in something different?
You're saying you want to make revisions to this and then have another tab that has only the revisions on it, right?
Yeah. How to duplicate this?
Yeah.
And
that's a good question. What I would do is I would go over to my A-size landscape here, and I would right click, and I can click move or copy, and I'll just create a copy of it. And so now I have A-size landscape 2, and I might want to change this. I can change the name if I right click on it, and I can rename it, and I could say revisions. But the thing to remember about that is, as I go into model space here, and let's just say I want the door swing to be this way. Yeah, I don't know, let's just say I want to swing into the room. When I make it on this revisions page here, I've made that change in model space. So the revisions here and on my first tab over here, it's going to be the same. So I'm not going to be able to keep the change here when I make the change here or here, it makes it everywhere. So
Got it.
what I would need to do is I would, and you all don't need to do this. I'm totally sidebarring right here just to answer this question. What I would do is I would copy the whole. Let me go over here. Click copy. I would take this whole drawing and I would copy it way the heck over here. I'll copy it some distance, like, I don't know, 100 feet. So there it is. Then I would make the changes here. And in here, I would pan over. Oh, I'd have to unlock my viewport. And then pan until I get to the other one. So now let me go to model space and let's change the door of this back out. So now when I go into my A size landscape, the door is out in the original, and then on my revisions, the door is in. So it's a little bit convoluted. The other way to do it is with layers. You could create new layers to do it and turn some layers off in one viewport and turn layers on in the viewport. And we'll get more into this in the CAD 2 class, where you have revisions and want to maintain the other. But you know, certainly for this project right here, you don't need to deal with that. I hope that answers your question, kind of.
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Who else has a question? All right. So your assignment for next Thursday is to duplicate this drawing here. Let me enlarge this on paper space. So draw the room accurately, put the door in and the side light, add some dimensions, and then switch over to paper space, draw a viewport, and put the dimensions in, and then modify your title block. By the way, you'll notice that here on this was printed out. This was just a PDF that we printed out, and you don't see the viewport. When I go to my drawing file, I do see the viewport and I do see it in orange. But when I go out to print, if I go to print this, I won't see that viewport. Why not? Well, if I go back to my layer properties, if you remember, when I put that viewport on the viewport layer, I have that viewport set to no plotting. Right here it says plot. Plotting is the same as printing, and AutoCAD generally calls it plotting instead of print. They call it both, but plotting is sort of a legacy terminology, because drawings get plotted on great big plotters, 24 by 36 or 36 by 48 giant plotters that plot out the whole drawings. We'll be printing, or if you want to print, you can print, but you're going to be printing 8.5 by 11 on a printer. So when I put that viewport on the viewport layer, AutoCAD automatically knows not going to print it. So I'll close this. So even though I see it here, it won't print. It's not going to print. All right. So let me go back to here. And so this is assignment 1A. And then down here is assignment 1B. And this is a conference room. And in essence, I mean, let's face it, it's the same drawing, right? Almost the same drawing. And the dimensions are different. And this one happens to have 2 doors with 2 side lights on it. So you'll be doing this operation twice here. And on this drawing, we've sort of extended this little piece of wall here out. And what else? We have two notes here. One note that says door to reception area and door to a service corridor. So there's a reception area out here and there's a service corridor out here. And then we have a general note. All doors are 36 inches, or all doors are 36-inch doors, and window frames equal 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start this. I'm not going to go through the whole process like I did here. I'm just going to start this one just to get you going on it, and then I'm going to sort of end the session and let you all do your thing with these. So project 1A and project 1B are both 2 separate AutoCAD drawings, and they're both due on Thursday. So before I get into
I have
project,
a question.
sure, yes.
Is there a certain font that we're using, or is it just already set up on the template?
It is already set up on the template, and it is by default. Let me just click on it. It is Century Gothic. It's right
Okay.
there. Okay. So, so I'm done with this drawing. Let me just start a new drawing, and this will be the project 1B. So I'll just go up here, new, and it's asking me for a template. I don't want any of these. I want my template, which is on my USB drive. CAD 1, templates, A size template, and open. I'm in model space. Here's my A size landscape and my A size portrait. I'm on my walls layer right up here. And the first thing I want to do is save my drawing. So I'll go to save. And it remembered that I'm in my projects here on my jump drive. So that's good. And I will call this project 1B. Save it. So let me just take a quick look here. I've got a room that's 24.8 wide by 19 feet 9 deep. So I'll start with my line command, but you know what? This time I'm going to do something completely different. I'll start my line command here. I'm just going to turn my ortho on. And I'm just going to draw some dimension. I don't know what. There. And I'm just going to draw a line here. I didn't even measure. I just have 2 lines. I've got a horizontal line and I've got a vertical line. Now I know that that room is 24 feet 8 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the offset command. So I'm going to click on offset. And I'm going to type, what is it? 24 foot 8, enter, and boink, boink. So that distance between there and there should be 24 feet 8 inches. And let's just, I'm going to use the measure tool here. Just go in there. And look, you see that brown dimension, that horizontal dimension, 24.8. Perfect. All right. What's the next one? Vertically 19.9. So I'll go to offset, 19 feet 9 inches. So there I have 19.9 between this line and this line. And now I'll just use my fillet command. Fillet. And if I go over, click on my measure, there it is. My room is 24.8 by 19.9, exactly what I wanted to do. It comes in to 2 feet 5, so, and 5'2", so I can offset 2 feet 5. And it comes over 5'2", 5'2" from the left. And I can do my fillet command. I'll type F. And there, let me just bring back my image. There's the inside of my room done for me. The reason I'm doing this is I'm just showing you that there's a lot of ways to do drawings. And one of the least used tools you'll end up using in AutoCAD is probably the line tool. Yeah, all of these move and copy and offset and fillet, those you use so much more than many of the other tools. So I'll just offset here 5 inches for my wall thickness. I'm offsetting outside of the room. And now I'll fill it to clean up my walls. And I'm just hitting my space bar or my enter key to repeat the fillet command for each one of these. I'll zoom in here. And over here, I guess I will use the line tool to close that off. And I've got a little space here, but you know what? I'm going to have a door frame, and I know that that door frame is going to be 2 inches. So why don't I just go to the offset command, type 2, and it's offsetting that whole line, but that's okay, because what I can do is I can use the trim command. Click on trim that piece off and that piece off. And now I have my little door jamb right there. And my door is 3 feet. So I'll offset again, 36 inches or 3 feet, whichever you want. Offset over. And then the next door jamb is 2 inches. 2, enter. Oops, offset, 2. And I want to make sure that I'm not offsetting that direction. I want to make sure I'm offsetting that direction because I want to make sure that I have a clear 3 feet between those 2 door frames. And then last but not least, I'll draw a little line here. It goes from that endpoint perpendicular. I'll offset 2 inches. I use my line tool here. And then I'll just trim up. I'm using the trim command, and I'm just trimming these 2 little pieces of line here. So I have a nice clean opening. And there is my door frame. Now all I need to do is insert my door. So again, Control 3 or Command 3, hopefully, and I'll click on my door. I want to be in the Architecture tab, and I'll just click on my Imperial door. It pulls a door in, and you could set it in place here, but I generally like to put it into the middle of the room or some space here so that I can manipulate it and do something with it. I'm just going to dock this off to the left so it's out of my way. And I'll click on it. I want to change my door to 3 feet. Change the opening to 90 degrees. I want to change it so it swings out toward the corridor. And I want to change the jamb from 6 inches to 5 inches. Okay, And now I'm going to move the door. So I'll use the move tool. This time I'm just typing the letter M. AutoCAD's asking me what are the objects I want to move. I'll select them. That's just that one. I'll just hit enter or spacebar and ask me the specify the base point. And I want to specify this corner of the door, that hinge point. And I want to move that. I have ortho off, so it's only going to go up and down, but it will snap. If I click on the endpoint there, it will snap to that endpoint. Oops, I guess I didn't. This is wrong here. So I guess I didn't change it to 5. There, now it's 5. And there is my door. So I'll add another door over here. I will go over to my A-size landscape. And I will create a viewport. I can do it one of two ways. I can go over to layout or to the layout tab here and click on under the layout viewports palette here. I can click rectangular, or I can use the keyboard shortcut MV, make view. Hit enter, and then specify an upper left-hand corner and a lower right-hand corner. And there's my viewport. I need to do a couple things. First, I'm going to put it on the viewport layer. Very important. I will take a point off if it's not on the viewport layer. Then I want to set the scale of the viewport. So I have the viewport selected. I know it's selected because I've got grips at the 4 corners and it's highlighted in blue. And I'll come down here and I'll change it to 330 seconds. Or is it 3? That's it, 330 seconds. Oh, nope, that's too little. 3/16. There we go. And then the next thing, very, very, very important, is I want to lock my viewport. So I have the viewport layer select or viewport selected, and then I'll come down here to the left, two little buttons here. And when I hover over it, it says selected viewports are not locked. When I click on it, now that viewport's locked. And you'll notice that my scale has grayed out. I no longer can change that scale. By the way, I can do this. I can change the size of my viewport. The viewport's locked. I think I can. Yep. I can change the size of my viewport. And you notice that part of the image is cut off because my viewport is cutting part of it off. I'm changing the size of the window that I cut out. And I can change the location of the viewport by using the move tool. So I can move that viewport wherever I want on my sheet of paper. And then you'll just enter your dimensions, clean up your text. Now we need to add some text over here, I think, on this. So how do I add that? Well, I can create fresh text, but this is what I do a lot, is I take some previous text. I'll just take that piece of text right there, and I'll copy it. I'll use the copy command. I'll select the start point for it, and I'll turn my ortho off here. And I'll just kind of move it over here. And then double click on it. Caps, we always want to work in caps. Note, colon, all doors are 36-inch doors. I think that's a weird note. I would say wide, but That's fine. And window frames equal 2 inches. When I'm done editing my text, I can just click over here. And we're good to go.